Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of May 13th, 2026. 9 books to talk about today. I thought it was a really good week. I enjoyed everything I read, even Absolute Batman. Spoilers: it's not ranked last. I thought it was interesting. There's a lot of Absolute Batman talk for a couple reasons. We'll get to that when we get to the book. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a really strong week. What do you think, Rocky?
Yeah, there was one disappointment, but beyond one disappointment, I thought it was a decent week as well. It's funny, you and I were talking beforehand, and you made a passing comment that I'll just say that I agree with, and I know I already know because you told me you know my top five. I don't know yours, but apparently we got very different top fives. But I have one thing in common with your top five from the comment you let slip, and that is that my top five I probably could interchange all of them. You know, I could probably, all of them are contenders for number one for me. Nothing really is a hill for me to die on here. I just enjoyed the top five this week. And even really the 8 out of 9 comics this week, you know, I'm not buying the physical copies of all of these because I'm budgeting. It's just the way it is. And, but this is one week where sometimes I regret, geez, if I could stretch the budget a little bit, it's tempting.
Yeah. 2 through 4 for me. Number one was a no-brainer, and I'll talk about why when we get there. But two
Yeah.
through four, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were tough. They were kind of interchangeable. But kind of on that note of budgeting, the big news in the comic sphere this week. I know you guys always like to get a little bit of news before we get started. Read Comics Online, RCO, as it's known. People use that abbreviation because sometimes if you put Read Comics Online, like especially on Reddit in the slash comic book portion of Reddit, they'll delete your comment because they feel like Read Comics Online promotes piracy. And basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a place you can go and read comics online for free. And so, yes, it's piracy. I don't condone it. I don't endorse it. But I understand it, right? There are people that are nowhere near a comic shop. People in other countries, they have no way to get the books, even if they wanted to, even if they could afford it, even if they wanted to. The books aren't there. So I get it. Plus, there's things that just aren't available. Older books, Silver Age stuff, super expensive, whatever. So there's various reasons for it or whatever. But anyway, it was the biggest site. It went down. It had a Discord server as well. That was deleted. Whatever. It seems like it's gone forever, and people are lamenting and they're freaking out. So again, I don't condone piracy, but I understand it, and I'm a kind of the opinion like, okay, if someone has no access to the book, couldn't buy it if they wanted to, do I think it's okay for them to read it online? I kind of do, right? Like we're talking about the difference between experiencing the story and not experiencing the story. And if there's no other way for them to experience the story, I sort of would rather have them experience the story than not.
I'm curious. I'm curious. How many people actually use that site? Do you have an estimate? Do you know?
I don't know because I don't go there. I mean, I've been there a few times. But what's funny is like there's all these like even creators like one of the posts that I saw today was talking about when DC did their trailer and promotion for Doomsday Clock, and they were showing images. The images that they were showing, the pages that they were showing from Doomsday Clock were from the website Read Comics Online. many creators go, the artists especially, they use it for reference because it's just so easy. I've had creators talk to me many times and tell me, yeah, DC, they'll send them comps, or Marvel, they'll send them, comps of their work, complimentary copies of their work, whatever. But to get them digitally, which sometimes you need as an artist to manipulate or look at for reference, or it's just easier than going and digging it out of a box or whatever. So a lot of people use it. But the other thing that I saw is people were talking about like static. Many people want to see an ongoing static book, milestone or whatever. And there's some counter going on of how many days it's been. And it's shameful how long it's been since DC's had a person of color, lead a title, be the title character in a book, whether that be an ongoing, not a mini series. So a Black Lightning ongoing, a Static ongoing, whatever it might be. and we had the Batman Static Beyond recently that you and I reviewed all the issues of, and we enjoyed it for the most part. But it was struggling. It was struggling in sales. But then the first issue had like 8,000 hits or downloads, or I don't know how they came up with that number. But yeah, within the first few days of the first issue being on Read Comics Online, 8,000. You're telling me that DC couldn't use 8,000 more sales on that book?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I understand. Like, not everybody can afford it. Comics are expensive. I also saw somebody go, "Oh man, you guys are complaining a lot. Some people can't afford $3." I can't remember the last time a comic was $3. Even Spawn, I think, is more than $3 now. So I think that person a little out of touch.
Yeah.
Most books are $5 now.
Yeah.
So and gas is here is like $5 a gallon. Whatever. Like, things are expensive. So I understand. And again, I don't condone it, but because I want creators to be paid for their work. Creators are taken advantage of by this industry. They're not compensated well enough. And I'll point to all the money that the MCU has made and how little of it ended up in the hands of creators. Now, DC movies haven't made near as much or whatever, but there's these giant corporations that now own a lot of this IP, and the money doesn't go where it should, in my opinion. So if the money did, then I don't think the piracy would be, as big of a deal. Like, if all the creators, I feel this, I truly do, and I'm not a creator, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but this is just my opinion. But I feel like if all the creators that were making comics, whether big two or otherwise, were making a livable wage, and we're comfortable creating stories and could pay their bills, medical insurance, whatever. If they were all comfortable, I think that they would feel more like, okay, I want the people to read my stories, even if that means they're pirating it, right? Like, I feel like the reason creators, are against piracy is because it's taking money out of their pocket. But you don't create something if you don't want people to read it and experience it, right? So, I create something, I want to be compensated for it. But if I'm making a comfortable living, then, and I have the choice between somebody experiencing my work or not, and the fact that you're not taking food out of my mouth, notwithstanding, I think creators would rather their work be experienced than not. But again, that's not the situation we're in. Creators don't make enough money. Marvel hasn't increased their rates in forever. Neither is DC, for that example. But DC does pay more than Marvel. It's a tough time. It's a tough time for everybody. So I get it. But it's been blowing up the Twitterverse and Reddit and whatever. And I'm sure some other site will come, or there might already be other sites that I'm not aware of. Again, Rocky and I are in a very privileged position in that I get digital press copies sent to me from most of the publishers. So, I don't have to go and pirate for the most part. And I do go, and I still go and buy way too many comics every week. So, anyway, enough about that. Anything else you want to add real quick before we move on, Rocky?
No, I just find it so fascinating that, piracy is, piracy, smircy, I mean, if everyone's doing it, even the creators, I mean, how do you eliminate that problem? I mean, but like you said, it is very interesting to speculate how many people wouldn't know what's going on in comic books every week, including ourselves, because I'm not, as I said, I'm not buying the physical copies of all these. I'm not. And we wouldn't be able to review them if we even got the review copies. So we're in a privileged position, and and in that sense, we provide this service or this review to those people that want to listen to it. But I mean, hey, it's just one of the realities that comic books are expensive, and if that many people are pirating, 8,000 is a lot of people. That is a lot of people. If it's like even touching that, that's a lot of people pirating.
I'm sure it's way higher for the bigger books too. Again, that's just a number that I saw. I don't really live in that world, but as far as keeping up, I mean, you're right. I wouldn't be able to keep up either. I would probably find a way to buy more books than I'm buying now. I don't know where the hell I'd store them because I'm completely out of space. But I do know, in reference to your comment about people listening to this to keep up. I know creators that listen to. I know several creators that listen to us every week just to keep up with what's going on, and they're DC creators. It's hard to find the time to read all the books. So, anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Supergirl number 13 is the first book, Hero of Candor, Part 3, written and drawn by Sophie Campbell. We have colors by Tamara Bonvillain, and Becca Carey handles the lettering in this issue. I did enjoy this, but something had to come last. This came in last for me at number 9. Um, Mostly just because it feels a little messy, but that might be Sophie Campbell's intent for it to feel messy in terms of so much going on, and Supergirl did kind of run away from a fight again. I guess she didn't really have a choice, but it felt odd to me. So anyway, I did enjoy it, but it did come in 9th for me. So
Wow.
but it was in your top 5, Rocky. So
Well, spoiler alert, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to tell you, this is in my top 2.
wow.
Yeah, no, I thought this was, I've been thoroughly enjoying this, and this is going to be, I've done rants before, but I'm going to do the equivalent of a Tom King rant, but I'm going to do a Sophie Campbell rave, because I think she deserves it. Sophie Campbell is the writer. She's the artist. She's the cover artist on this. She's been spearheading this comic from the beginning. And from the beginning, at first I thought this was, this was for a particular audience. Maybe like it was just a teenage audience, young adult, etc. What she's managed to do here is, I love her stylistic art. By the way, I'm going to give a shout out to her cover art. This is fantastic. This is a fantastic cover A. My God, I think it's the best. To me, it's the cover of the week for sure. And I love that it's cover A. It reflects the content of the comic, certainly thematically. Black Flame is the villain. Supergirl is, she's basically been beat the hell up. She's only recovered because she's basically been made into a cyborg to heal her from the battle with Black Flame. And what Sophie Campbell has managed to do is that she's managed to continuously introduce very mature themes from the beginning of her run until now. And we got some very adult themes here, and it's touching upon Supergirl's experience in Argo City. And Supergirl is, she's Kandor is an absolute chaos. Kandor is going through somewhat of almost like the equivalent of a 60s revolution. The teenagers, the young adults of young Kandor are sort of rebelled against the Science Council because they've sort of been kept in the dark. And what I love about it is not only is Supergirl struggling with that, she's been beat up. She's dealing with these Thunderbirds, which are Thunderbolts, I guess, or Thunderbirds, sorry. or Thunder Kids, sorry. Thunder Kids, which are clones, and they're on her side trying to take out Black Flame. But you can sympathize with Black Flame to a certain extent. Black Flame, her name is Zora, and her friend is Leslar, and Leslar is a friend of Supergirl, and Supergirl followed Leslar into Kandor. It's the potential destruction of what's happening to Kandor that is juxtaposed against Kara's memories of Argo City, and what's very I thought really hit me was how she's at the end here. Leslar takes her into the bottom to the pits to the underground of Kandor, and it looks like there's a sort of a micro universe there, or a sort of a micro something, which appears to be Argo City itself. Now, Kara went through the trauma of losing Argo City, and we get hints of that here. And what Sophie Campbell is managing to navigate so well, in my opinion, is she's writing what on the surface is a young adult. We've got some issues that were very young adult, young orientated, and then we get these older adult theme, mature orientated issues, and she seems to navigate it very well. And in my view, she's getting better and better, and I'm really enjoying this. And I like the voice she's given Kara. I like that. I think she's handling the voice as well. I'm following this. I'm not lost. I'm in this for the ride. I'm interested to see where this is going. There's a lot of characters that she's handling here. I think she's handling it very well. I like that she's not retelling Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but she's clearly relying upon that. Tom Kim did a good job talking about Kara's traumatic experience in her origins, watching Argo City die. And we're seeing remnants of Kara dealing with that as she's trying to attain some small amount of redemption, trying to help Kandor through this crisis. And anyways, I could go on, but I thought it was very well. It had a big impact on me. I really like this. And I love this issue. And like I say, I sing its praises. This is one where I am buying the physical copies of this. I bought it from the beginning. And this gets a high recommend for me.
Yeah, the art is great, no doubt. Thank God Black Flame is Zora Vilar. Thank God it's not another LL character.
Yeah.
Because Luna didn't travel to Kandor, but Leslie Lar, that's where she's from. She has returned, and Connor Kent and Lena Luthor have gone there. There's just so many LLs, and I love the call, because Lex Luthor and Lori Lemaris and Lois Lane. I mean, it's a classic super, but it does make it a little harder to keep track of them. But yeah, the fact that Lesla and Supergirl have, I mean, there's a civil war happening right now in Kandor, like you said, and Supergirl and Lesla Lar, two people who can help, seem to have run away from the conflict a little bit. And so I don't know. I just thought that was a strange choice, but anyway, definitely a lot of action going on in Supergirl right now. All right, up next we have the first debut issue of another Next Level book. It's Barbara Gordon Breakout #1 from writer Mariko Tamaki. M&K Nahelapan on art, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, letters by Ariana Mayer. This is in my top 5. But not in Rocky's top 5. So
yeah, I just want to tell you that this was I put this at number 9 for me. This was dead last for me.
Oh wow!
And this would not have made my top 5 in any other week, ever.
Okay,
I thought this was. I'm not a fan of this.
All right, I mean, go. Let us hear it. Like, what didn't you like about it?
Sorry, I lost my headset there.
I was just saying, what didn't you like about it?
Well, if you want me to go first, I just thought it was derivative. Writer Mariko Tamaki, she's written this story before. She wrote it in the Detective Comics when the Huntress was prisoner at Arkham Tower. We've gotten this story before. I just feel like I've read this before. This is just tough girl goes to prison to. And the reason why she's going to prison is so stupid too. I mean, Barbara Gordon's going to prison because prison is where you send bad guys, Barbara. She wants to go in to protect the innocent people in prison. That's really what it was. She says Vandal Savage. She says Vandal Savage has sent some people into prison, and she needs to go into there to protect them.
So yeah, they're not bad people though. Vandal Savage is sending people to prison that haven't done anything wrong. That was her point.
She's again. That's. There's so many people. If that's your motivation to go to prison, there's lots of people that are innocent that get sent to prison, and her assumption that somehow she's going to go and make. I just think it's really absurd. And she's going to prison where she's going to be locked up. So I'm not really sure exactly what her master plan is here. She's never been to prison before. She's never spent a day in prison. I guess, but her martial arts training is giving her some special background to be able to do so. I just think that I don't know. I'm just not buying it. I don't know if this is going to be Orange is the New Black. Who knows? It is Mariko Tamaki. I don't know. To me, this was tropey. It had all. There's nothing about this that I feel is new, and in particular, definitely not Next Level. But you can maybe it'll grow on me, and maybe I'll hear your review, and maybe I'll change my mind.
You won't. Nah, you won't. I mean, you kind of missed the point right from the beginning. If you're like, she's going in there to protect bad people. No, I mean, nobody deserves to be killed. If you're even the people that are sentenced to get the death penalty, in my opinion, don't really deserve to be killed. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point being that the Vandal Savage fascist regime in charge of the Gotham City police department. He's weaponized the police department. He's weaponized the penal system to imprison his enemies, to imprison anybody who might fight back against what he's doing to the Gotham City Police Department. And so, yes, it might be far-fetched or whatever, but we're also talking about a story about a guy that dresses like a giant bat and fights crime. So, I get that it lacks some verisimilitude, but at the same time, it's like, well, this is comics. A guy's got, a magic ring that he just makes wishes and it creates stuff. Another guy can fly and shoot heat beams out of his eyes. So, I'm going to take that part of it with a grain of salt. But do I think it's worth it to go into this maximum security penitentiary and try to save the people that are being sent there because they're enemies of Vandal Savage? I wouldn't do it this way myself. I think there's a better way to do it. But this dovetails in with the last issue of Batman very, very strongly, right? Like I had some complaints about the last issue of Batman, Barbara Gordon even allowing herself to be caught or whatever. And we find out here it's all part of a big master plan that Bruce and Barbara have concocted together. And yeah, I don't buy that. I didn't buy that. I didn't care for the last issue of Batman for kind of some of the same reasons that you're saying. I just think that Bruce would find a better way. If there are people that are in this, new Supermax or whatever, in Gotham. It looks like it's in like the harbor or whatever of Gotham City. So if that's the case, then go and break them out and put them somewhere safe. Don't send Barbara Gordon in there on her own, because it does stretch believability. But this is the story we're getting, and I understand that. I also agree with you about it being derivative. We did see this with Huntress. We also saw it with Catwoman, and you and I were both kind of critical of that, because it was like Catwoman allowed herself to be sent to prison because she felt guilty that this guy got killed.
Yeah.
Well,
we were critical of it. Yeah.
He was a thief, and and there was some physical attraction between the two, some sexual attraction between Selena and this guy, and he got killed, and she felt bad, so she allowed herself to be sent to prison. It was just completely ludicrous. So yeah, you're right. I mean, two very recent storylines with this type of story. And again, this does tie in very closely to that previous issue of Batman that we just reviewed last week, and we'll see where it goes. And that's sort of where my nitpicks come in. It's like, I think this whole idea of Batman not being able to take down Vandal Savage and not being able to take down these Tuco officers and find a better way, and the fact that they're having to run and they're on their back heels or whatever, it just seems a little ludicrous to me. But at the same time, there are some hints here that maybe it's all purposeful, right? Like maybe they're just trying to lull Vandal Savage into a false sense of security.
I think that is true. For what it's worth, I do think this is all set up. I do think they have a master plan to get Barbara Gordon out of there. Once Batman's plan, his master plan regarding Vandal Savage, carries through, I do think this is part of a larger plan. At least I hope it is. I'm actually sure it is, because, and even at the end, there's a last minute reveal here at the end, and we don't know who she sees, but I do think this is going to ramp up. I just hope it does, because it just, at this opening stage, it just wasn't, it didn't get my attention really. But
yeah, I also thought Ammon K's art wasn't as clean as I've seen it before. So I don't know. Maybe it sounds like everything that I'm saying is negative, and that's why, like, why would it be in my top 5? I enjoyed everything this week, and it was a little tough to rank things. But the fact of the matter is, it's been a long time since we've had Barbara Gordon as the star of a book. The last couple books that she's been in, Birds of Prey, she had a big role, but that's a team book. She was in the Batgirls book that we had, where it was Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain teaming up. And Barbara was Oracle, exclusively in that book, but played a big role. But it was a team book. Now we're getting a book, and this is Barbara Gordon. We're not going to see her as Batgirl, not necessarily going to see her as Oracle, although I sort of think that you don't really separate, at least in my mind, I don't really separate Barbara Gordon and Oracle. A lot of what makes Oracle is just how smart she is, her brilliance, and you don't separate that from Barbara Gordon. So the reason that this is in my top 5 is because it is spotlighting Barbara Gordon and how capable she is. And so I do appreciate that. And for that reason, I put it in my top 5. So, but I don't disagree with a lot of what you're saying, except for the fact that, I do feel it's worthwhile to try to go and rescue those innocent people. And I do hope it ramps up, and I guess we'll see. But I also agree with you. Next level, but then, to be honest, some of the next level books haven't really blown me away. Yeah, they haven't felt next level. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, another book that I think this one was in my top 5. Yeah, it's so hard to remember because, again, everything was sort of equally good. But it's Bleeding Hearts number 4 from writer Dennis Camp, Stephen Morian on art, Matt Hollingsworth on colors, Hassan Otsman Elhau on letters. Now at least a couple of these issues have been in your top 5 previously.
This was number 6 for me. Just missed my top 5.
Okay, so go ahead and give us your thoughts first.
Well, I thought, it was just a little bit. I was a little bit bored with this. I was a little bit bored with it. This was. It almost feels like this was sort of a setup. This whole issue was furthering the relationship between the young kid and the zombie character. I can't remember the zombie character's name. They called him Poke. Yeah, well,
Poke.
they call him Flower Boy.
Yeah.
So the kid calls him Flower Boy because Poke, because he's got the flower growing out the side of his head.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cute that way. Basically, Mother is very, very reluctant. She doesn't like the idea of Poke, of Flower Boy and her kid and her son getting closer, but they play together.
I think it's a girl. She has a daughter, and her name is Rabbit.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. One of those Rabbit. Okay, Rabbit and Poke. And it was okay. I was more interested at the end where, very clearly, Poke he enjoys his time playing with Rabbit. Okay. And then, but he also has a best friend who's another zombie.
Mush.
And Mush. and basically his two relationships. So in a sense, he's almost got his two best friends. One's a human girl, and one's a zombie. That comes to a head at the end of the issue where his zombie friend shows up and sees and discovers that Poke has some human friends, and this is a horrible thing. This is set up to be a very horrible thing because it's one of the things that Dennis Camp establishes through the narrative, through the narration because we're privy to Poke's thoughts, is just how the zombies feed on terror. They feed on terror, and they love it. In fact, humans taste better when they're scared and terrified. And he tells the story of how some humans, when they track them down, when they become resigned to their fate and they die without fear, they don't taste as good. So fear is like a spice to the zombies, which I thought was very interesting. But in any event, it was okay. Again, just outside my top five, but not quite good enough to make the top five, but still entertaining. I do buy physical copies of this. I enjoy it. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time where we get an issue that's told from multiple perspectives. Because the first issue was all from the perspective of Poke, and then the second issue was the perspective of the mother, and I think the third issue was Poke again. And now this fourth issue, we get a little bit from the mother at the beginning, and then we get some from Poke, and then we switch back to the mother. And so I think this is the first one where the perspective shifts. So I did appreciate that. You're right about the cliffhanger. Mush has been suspicious, which, like, even as we're talking, right, about these characters, it's such a different take on who zombies are. It's not completely original. We've had it before where we've had stories of zombies or, some apocalyptic tales or what have you, where the like human society, human species shifts, right? Whether it's they become zombies, like Walking Dead or whatever, or the other one that comes to mind is the Omega. I think it was called Omega Man. Maybe people might think of it or be more familiar with it by the name I Am Legend. That was the book, the name of the book, and then they did a remake with Will Smith and called it I Am Legend. The original Omega Man movie was it starred Charlton Heston, I think. But anyway, that the whole idea that at the end it's Will Smith or Charlton Heston or that character that's the monster, because everybody else he's the one that's different, and everybody else is is the same, and they're establishing a society, and the whole reason they even come after that character is to rescue the zombie or whatever it is that Will Smith captured and was experimenting on. So that's really interesting, and it's not and Crossed by Garth Ennis is another where it's not zombies, but people become rabid and have the crossed rash on their face or whatever. But anyway, it's this whole idea of establishing a society, and the thing that we ascribe to these zombies, you did it when you were talking about it, I'm doing it when I'm talking about these characters, is we're ascribing emotions to these characters. Poke is interested not just in playing with Rabbit, but in observing the mother and wondering, because he's feeling changes in his own body and wondering why he feels compelled. He does that thing that so many of us do when we're trying to break a bad habit, right? Like he promises himself, that's the last time, I'm not going to see them again. And then he rationalizes and he comes up with excuses. And now I'm talking about Mush, who doesn't have those changes going on, who doesn't feel his heart beating or whatever, but he's suspicious.
Yeah.
He's of Poke. So again, we're ascribing these sort of human emotions and conditions upon these quote unquote zombies who, they're not mindless, even though they can't communicate with the humans, and they communicate in a different way or what have you. So it's very interesting, the world that Dennis Camp is establishing here. So I'll give credit where credit's due in making this compelling and interesting, and maybe a little bit more of a metaphor for where we are with the divisiveness in modern society than we realize. Certainly politically in this country, you could make the argument that somebody on the far right and somebody on the far left don't speak the same language and can never find common ground to communicate, even though technically they both speak English, right? They don't hear each other.
And that's exemplified by the fact that the very the fear that humans feel is actually the spice that attracts the zombie.
Yeah.
That's a really that's a scary metaphor, a scary analogy if you want to compare that to the current political climate in terms of the divide between the political divide, that people almost thrive on the pain of the other party, and it's just terrible.
Yeah. And again, we all have much more in common than we don't. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, really curious to see how it's going to go down. Part of me is half expecting that Poke is going to kill Mush, which now he's really over the line. Like, what? You're killing your own kind to,
Well, he could get his arm back. He can get his arm back. Yeah, look on the bright side.
So it's gonna be interesting to see where this goes. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting comic. Of the two Dennis Camp books I've read this week, I enjoyed this one a lot more than the other. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, up next, a book. Here's one of the ones that's in both of our top five. Emperor Aquaman, issue number 17, from writer Jeremy Adams, John Timms and Paolo Villanella on art, Rex Locus on colors, Dave Sharp on letters. Man, what's not to like here? Great cover, hunted by the Black Manta. We see Lolana Marana Shala, the daughter of Thule, Mira's mother, trying to have sort of a meeting of the minds, I guess you'd say, with Black Manta, talking about how she won't be satisfied until Aquaman is killed. And then we shift the scene to Atlantis. We get caught up with Lori Lemaris, and she sort of gives us kind of an update, if you will, along with Vivian and Mira as well. They're all sort of discussing what's going on. There's hints of maybe a little bit of romance building between Vivian, Lady of the Lake, and Arian. Meanwhile, Mira's beloved Arthur is out among the stars, and she kind of laments him going out there and building the lighthouses. Whatever. In a way, it's better than getting a bunch of exposition boxes to kind of get us caught up, if you will, with where Aquaman is and what's going on. So credits to Jeremy Adams for doing it that way. And then the scene shifts, and we see something I don't think we've ever seen before, which is basically the male version of Starro, the king, right? Like, I think we've seen before kind of the mother Starro that lays all the eggs or whatever. Now we find out the way the Starros are actually born. So she lays the eggs, they go to this planet, and they connect to the father, and he kind of nurses them or whatever, and then they eventually hatch and they go out. And so it's very, very interesting. But the best thing is Jarro shows up. Jarro, one of my favorite DC characters, created by Jorge Jimenez and
Scott Snyder.
And Scott Snyder. And I love it. He shows up, and Jeremy leans into the fact that Jarro is so different than all the other Starros. He doesn't have that sort of desire to conquer or take over humans or whatever. But Jeremy pushes it farther, I think, than it's ever been pushed before, in that Jarro actively does not want the other Starros to exist because he knows the pain and the trauma that these Starro conquerors will cause in their lifetime, to the point where, because again, Aquaman is on this planet. He doesn't realize it's King Starro, or whatever you want to call it, Daddy Starro, and he's going to actually, because it's also a planet that's got a lot of liquid, a lot of water, so he feels a strong attraction to it with his connection to the blue, and he's going to establish a lighthouse there, a sanctuary, if people need. And then when they find out what it is, Jarro takes over Aquaman, or doesn't necessarily take him over, but bonds with him to some extent. Doesn't completely control him. Still allows him free thought. but he does it in an attempt to hide Aquaman from being sensed by the daddy Starro, and that doesn't work. And then Jarro does take over Aquaman's body, and he kills all the rest of the Starros. And Aquaman's trying to stop him. Aquaman's like, "This is genocide. You can't do this, whatever." But I mean, who knows better than Jarro the pain and the trauma that can be caused by these Starro conquerors? So I don't blame Jarro for what he did. And I do think of Jarro as kind of like a 10, 11, 12-year-old. So a little impulsive and maybe doesn't make the best decisions based on experience. And yeah, the planet is basically destroyed, and we're told that the only Starros out there are the ones that have already hatched. There's going to be no new Starros.
And the Jarro now has something in common with Lobo. He wiped out his whole planet.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see if that sticks in DC continuity. I mean, but who knows? I mean, if you're a writer or a creator that wants to tell a story with Starros, I mean, it's not like Jeremy tells us there's 1,000 or there's 10,000 or there's 3 million. I mean, who knows how many Starros could be out there? So there's ways around it, but pretty fun, pretty interesting. The art by John Timms and Paulo Villanella is fantastic. The colors are great. Aquaman continues to be extremely powerful. I mean, he just took out Starros. Now, yes, it was Jarro that made the decision, that used Aquaman's powers to take them out. But the point still stands that Aquaman is powerful enough to take out a planet of Starros. I've been talking and talking about how powerful Aquaman has become, and it sort of seems like people don't really realize. And I'm kind of okay with that in a way, because I don't want editorial to come to Jeremy and be like, "Hey, you can't make Aquaman the most powerful character in the entire DC universe." Because I kind of want Aquaman to be the most powerful character in the DC universe, just because it's so cool and novel. And I've talked about how Jeremy's elevated Aquaman into one of my top 3 to 5 characters in the DCU. But so I don't want DC editorial to interfere, but I do want more people to realize just how powerful Aquaman has become. So I love this issue. It was fantastic. The only way I could love this issue more, because again, I'm a big Black Manta fan as well, and I love the main cover, but the only way I could love this issue more is if, based on the events of this issue, if Jarro now becomes part of Aquaman's entourage as well, so I get to see Jarro on a monthly basis, because he's already built a pretty good team with Vivian and Arian and Lori Lemaris, and he has his I can't remember what they're called, his basically honor guard of sharks or whatever.
Sharknadoes or something, or Shark Guard, or
there's a name for it, and they do say it here. I'll find it really quickly.
Yeah, the honor Shark Guard or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll find it while you. The Shiver, that's what it is. They're called the Shiver.
Yeah,
which I think is the name for a group of sharks, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, fingers crossed that we have Jarro on a regular basis and he becomes part of Aquaman's entourage. So,
well, this was in my top 5. This came in at number 5 for me. I love seeing Jarro again, and you nailed it when you said that Jeremy Adams takes Jarro up to the next level, because my recollection of during Scott Snyder Justice League run, when he introduced Jarro, was that Jarro had a great relation. Jarro's favorite Justice League member was Batman. Jarro and Batman seemed to have a pretty good relationship. But I got to tell you, Batman would be very, very disappointed in Jarro, who's just engaged in a genocidal act. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat this. Of all people, Jarro thought that the only way to stop his fellow race, the very people of his race, was to kill them all. And Jeremy Adams, the way he wrote this, it's clear that Jarro's mind, and as Aquaman himself, could sort of read the collective, almost like the Board collective. They were part of the collective hive mind of the Jarros almost, and Jarro could confirm that, they would have created a universe of dead stars if they would have been allowed to go out there. Well, what's so special about Jarro? Jarro somehow manages to gain sentience and rationality, is to not even have a token attempt to try to reach or rationalize with the planet of Jarros. I thought that's pretty cold. I mean, this whole idea. I mean, Superman would find a way, Batman would find a way. Jarro, no, he just kill them all and use Aquaman to do it.
Yeah, he's a little kid. So,
yeah, no. Oh, sure, that's a justification. Yeah, no. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love the fact that Jarro did that. I love the story. It's good because it's like, but this also is a huge red flag. Jarro took it upon himself to wipe out an entire planet. And if he's going to team up with Aquaman, even Aquaman's got to know that, hey, you are a powerhouse, Jarro, but you're also a liability. You took over my mind and you used my power to exterminate an entire planet. I would think Aquaman would be just a little bit upset with that at a minimum. Even if Aquaman agreed with the decision, that's a pretty serious decision. I love it. It creates character drama, tension. I'm looking forward to see what Jeremy Adams does with it. I'm not going to just assume. I hope that this is, because this isn't funny. Like this isn't a joke between Jarro and Batman anymore. He just took out a planet, and he took out his own planet. Now, granted, Lobo wiping out his entire planet in many ways is almost played for comedy, following Lobo doing it. But in any event, I love it, and I just love the drama it creates. And you said more than once, and I 100% agree with you, this another example of elevating Aquaman. And the other thing is, to an outside observer watching what happens, they may not appreciate that Aquaman was mentally controlled by Jarro. Aquaman might be judged. If the whole universe is watching, if the cosmological beings of the DC universe are watching what's going on, and they see Aquaman making these unilateral decisions, or view him as being the judge, jury, and executioner, you can see Aquaman attracting a higher level villain than just Black Manta. And what I find interesting about it is, how do you? Jeremy Adams is up for the challenge because I find it interesting when you knowing that Black Manta is going to come onto the scene. My first thought is, Black Manta, you're going to get your ass kicked. You are nothing. Aquaman's going to wipe the floor with you. Are you kidding? And he just wiped out a planet. What does he have to fear from the guy in the black suit, Black Manta? He'll just get, But so. I think it's safe to predict that Jeremy Adams is up for the challenge of giving Black Manta a power-up. He's going to get if Aquaman's getting a power-up, you just know Black Manta somehow is going to get a power-up as well. And I'm just curious to see what that is going to be. And he may not get a power-up, but just like Lex Luthor, it doesn't, it's not powered up like Superman, but he has his mind. Black Manta has his deviousness and his inherent evil and his hatred of Aquaman, and he's often quite capable of doing extraordinarily bad things and be a challenge for Aquaman. But Black Manta is going to have to level up here, because Aquaman is not only powerful in his own right, his team is, arguably every member of his team would be a challenge for Black Manta. But in any event, good stuff. And I like to see Vivian and Arian get together. Arian, Lord of Atlantis. I don't remember him. Did he have a love interest back in the 80s? Maybe he did. I can't remember. But in any event, good comic, great comic, easy top 5.
Yeah, I mean, Aquaman was arguing with Jarro the whole time. No, you can't do this. Stop. And he eventually rips him off his face, And Jarro says, I'll never do that again. Like, no, you won't. So, yeah, I mean, Aquaman's not going to be particularly happy with it. But at the same time, maybe that's an excuse for, hey, you better stick around so I can keep an eye on you. Yeah. We'll see. As far as the difference in power level, I mean, the thing that it's always going to hold Arthur back, and it's a perfect example here when he's telling Jarro, because Jarro's like, Aquaman says, you can't kill them all. That's genocide or whatever. And he says, no, it's mercy, because Jarro's thinking about all the people that the Starro conquerors would eventually harm, and he's protecting them. It's mercy for all the damage and civilizations that the conquerors would destroy. He's not thinking of it as genocide and killing. But Aquaman doesn't care. Like you mentioned, he's a hero. He wants to find a better way, arguing against him the whole time. That's the same thing that would keep Black Manta as a threat for Aquaman, because Black Manta can threaten others instead of Aquaman himself. He can threaten Aquaman's allies, but also Aquaman is not going to just walk up to Black Manta, snap his fingers, and pull all the moisture out of Black Manta's body, and it could be over that quick, right? Just like Superman could obliterate every supervillain from orbit and incinerate them with his heat vision. But again, they're heroes, so they don't do those sort of things. Maybe the argument could be that they should, if you want to take Jarl's argument of, hey, this is mercy because you're preventing the trauma and injury to the future victims. But anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Action Comics 1098, Future Shock Part 2, written by Mark Waid, art by Skylar Patridge and Patricio Del Pesce, colors by Ivan Placencia, and Del Pesce colors his own pages, and then Steve Wan's on letters. I just thought this was okay. Didn't make my top 5 this week. Came in at number 7. Again, nothing wrong with it. I definitely prefer Skylar Patridge's art to the Del Pesce art. And I did enjoy the interaction between Mary Marvel going to high school with Clark and trying to make Lana jealous. And I also like the ending where it looks like Clark has temporarily lost his powers. Superman has lost his powers, or Superboy has lost his powers. But again, just a strong week, so it pushed it out of my top 5. What were your thoughts?
It made my top 5. It made my top 5. This came in at number 3 for me, I'll share. And I really like the fact that Mark Waid continues to retell the origin of Superman. I mean, this is really what we're getting. We're getting the early years of Superboy told in Action Comics. And it's sort of sneaking up on people. I'm getting the sense, and I know different comic book communities talk about different things, but I'm getting a sense that Action Comics is sort of coming, it's under the radar of a lot of people, I think, in terms of what it's doing with the origin of Superboy. Like, I say origin of Superman, it's really Superboy as well, because we're really getting a focus on the Superboy's early years. And just, and to hear it told from Jonathan and Martha Kent as they talk to Martian Manhunter and Mary Marvel and Booster Gold, I really like that mechanism of telling the story. Because, in a sense, that Martian Manhunter, Mary Marvel, and Booster Gold sort of kind of know the story, but they only know it through a historical lens or through what they may have picked up through talking to Superman occasionally, but to hear it from his own parents. And we readers are experiencing it for the first time, too, because this is a different comic book era. This isn't DC. This isn't DC Rebirth. This is DC. What exactly is this? We're sort of in a new era. Things are being rewritten. It's sort of a revitalization.
I think they're still calling it All In.
Sure. Well, fair enough. DC All In. Yeah. So what exactly is going on? What is the origin of Superman? And so we're getting full answers to that in very strong character-driven ways. This is easy read. I think it's entertaining. You mentioned the character moments. I really loved Mary Marvel. Going to school, pretending to be a student, checking out the school, a friend of Clark Kent, all with the intention to make Lana jealous because, young Clark shared that he's upset that Lana's in love with Superboy. And so
very Silver Age.
Exactly. But told with sort of a modern day sensibility, which is, modern day sensibility. How many times have I said that? Mark Waid's been doing that in spades in this Action Comics run, which frankly he's doing over in the pages of World's Finest as well. Sort of old Silver Age tales with modern day sensibilities. And just, it's very well done here. And Skylar Patridge's art is just perfectly suited for these types of stories. And it really works here. And I thought that this time travel tale would create all kinds of wonkiness that wouldn't quite work, and that it would bother me. And it doesn't. I find it fun. I'm more focused on the fun aspects, and I'm enjoying I'm really focused on the character work and just how fun it is to read. And I'm genuinely curious as to how it's going to resolve. And at the end, of course, we got Superboy losing his powers. And, again, I'm curious. It's pulling me in. I got to tell you, I'm not buying the physical copies of Action Comics, but I might end up buying the trade paperbacks, because, again, just budget-wise and what have you. But this is definitely a title where it's like I'm always like, geez, I'm regretting not buying the physical copies. But, I might end up buying the trade paperbacks on this. Mark Waid, Skylar Patridge, they're doing a really good job here on this title.
Yeah, I've got every issue of Action Comics from 300 up.
Nice.
So yeah, so even when it's not a great run, like the Bendis, I was still buying physical because I don't want to break
Yeah.
that run. Uh, but yeah, it's great stuff for sure. One thing, just going back to Aquaman really quick. I forgot to mention there's my favorite variant cover. You know, you really like that Supergirl cover. That one in the middle there, that Ariel Diaz cover of Mira. Oh my god! Like, yeah, I had already pre-ordered the Emperor Aquaman regular cover with the Black Manta because I love Black Manta as a character.
Yeah.
And then I saw that and I'm like, I guess I'm getting two covers. I had that. I could not get it. It was so fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, up next, book that's in my top 5 but not in Rockies. It's Fury of Firestorm #2, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Rafael de la Torre, colors by Marcelo Maiello, letters by Lucas Catoni. Where did this come in for me? It's in my top 3. Give us your thoughts, and then I'll go.
I just thought, honestly, I know, I remember the 80s Firestorm and Fury of Firestorm, and this was just a reminder of why I love Ronnie Raymond. And so it felt like I've been down this road before. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. It came in at I got it in at number 7, and I thought it was excellent. I think for new readers, this does an excellent job of introducing you to Ronnie Raymond, to Professor Stein. Jeff Lemire is really good at character work, and Jeff Lemire does a better job than I remember even that early Firestorm series in the 80s, a better job of sort of explaining how Ronnie Raymond really was in many ways an average guy, average in looks, average in intelligence, average. He's just the average guy who's in love with a girl, and he goes to Professor Stein and to impress her. He didn't make the football team, so he can't be a jock. He's not the most intelligent in the class, but there's a girl he likes, and that's how he meets Professor Stein. Professor Stein, for whatever reason, maybe he can see some aspects of Ronnie. He sort of takes him under his wing, notwithstanding the fact that Professor knows that he doesn't quite have the necessarily the acumen for a high level physics class. And then ultimately that leads to the formative events that led to the creation of Firestorm, the Firestorm Matrix, and the way that leads into this Firestorm Matrix, perhaps suggesting by Jeff Lemire, where the new information is that, it wasn't just a dichotomy of Professor Stein and Ronnie Raymond, that the Firestorm Matrix itself has its own sentience, and that maybe was always wrestling or part of the equation as well, but we readers weren't aware of that. And then the flashbacks and the different art styles when we're jumping back and forth between time periods, it does work. It's excellent. It's just, for me, I feel like it was repetitive to me, but it was very good. It's very good, and I'm getting the physical copies of this too, because and even though maybe I'm stretching the budget there, but so it's good. It was just outside my top 5. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Firestorm's a favorite of mine, so it's kind of a no-brainer. Again, I talk about how I enjoyed every book this week, so why was this in my top 5 and others not? Well, because Firestorm's one of my favorite characters, and you're right. There's a lot of nostalgia here, and I did appreciate the De La Torre art when it is flashback, that it's more of that kind of dot printing, looks like the old kind of newsprint or whatever. Is it a kind of repetitive or redundant for longtime fans of Firestorm? Yeah, a little bit, because again, it's rehashing, but again, very new reader friendly. But it didn't necessarily tell me anything I didn't already know about Ronnie Raymond, even though it does tweak it a little bit. Because Ronnie's in college when he first meets Professor Stein, as opposed to being in high school like the old school one. And then there are things that are revealed in issue 3 that I got to be careful that I'm not going to touch on. Because we got the first 3 issues of Firestorm so early, I read them all multiple times. Before, like,
I almost wish they wouldn't do that. Like, why did they do that?
Yeah. So, this idea that there's something more to the Firestorm Matrix than it just being the amalgamation of Ronnie and Professor Stein, it's not the first time we've heard that. Because again, at some point you start running out of ways to tell the stories. I mean, I love the classic Firestorm so much that I like the idea of it being simply a fusion between Ronnie and Professor Stein, go back to a simpler time. but I understand there's only so many stories you can tell like that. So, we got that toward the end of the Fury of Firestorm run. It changed its name to Firestorm the Nuclear Man. There was this Russian guy that got the power, and neither Ronnie nor Professor Stein then we had the power anymore. And then we got Jason Rush later on, and hints that they all are sort of connected to the Firestorm Matrix, it was called. But like Rocky said, this is the first time that we're hearing that the Firestorm Matrix itself has sentience. And I love the way that it's depicted here by Della Torre and even the U.S. military that are keeping tabs and monitoring Firestorm as closely as they can. They're like, oh, stuff's about to hit the fan. His face disappeared, and we see the art where his face is all black and you just see glowing eyes, and they're wondering where's Lorraine Riley, where's Firehawk? But she went looking for Professor Stein. We'll see her and get some context on Professor Stein in issue 3. Yes, this was a little bit of setup. This was a little bit of flashback and sort of expositional and giving us some background on Ronnie, specifically for newer readers who may not be familiar. And it did, again, tweak, Ronnie and the timeline of when him and Professor Stein met and everything. But the character, like Rocky said, the character work is so good from Jeff Lemire that I can kind of excuse that. It also helps, like I mentioned, that I pretty much had all 3 issues to read at one time. So, it was a big chunk of story. So I didn't necessarily feel like, oh my God, this was so derivative. I didn't get, a big enough chunk of story. So it's a little hard for me to separate it. But again, my love of Firestorm, the character work from Jeff Lemire, I really want an ongoing. I want this to be ongoing. I secretly want this to be an absolute title as well. Rocky and I talk about that all the time. Man, wouldn't that be great if come to find out that this isn't main universe Firestorm, but this is absolute Firestorm? Mm-hmm. That could explain the differences in Ronnie and Professor Stein's relationship and the timeline and whatever, and explain the difference in the Firestorm Matrix and all that. That would be really cool because it would be a surprise, because I feel like not a lot of people, I don't know the sales numbers, I haven't looked at them, but I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this book. So imagine the mad dash for first printings of #1 if it was revealed that this was absolute Firestorm. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That being said, as much as I want this to be an ongoing, it was originally solicited for 6 issues. It got extended to 9. I hope the sales dictate that it goes beyond that, because I really think that Jeff Lemire is the right person to do a long run on Firestorm.
I think the reason why they extended it to 9 issues is that they heard your idea about making it absolute Firestorm, and they added 3 more issues to make that happen.
I hope so. And I hope it continues. I hope it continues going. Maybe with issue 10, they change the title to Absolute Firestorm. Again, I think that Jeff Lemire, he does great character work. Things like a Sweet Tooth. Or what's the book that he does with the one from Boom?
Minor Arcana?
Yeah, Minor Arcana with the tarot cards.
Yeah,
that's another one.
That's really good. Yeah.
But if you talk about those books, there's angst there. There's trauma. There's a little bit of looking at the darker side of things. Depression and trauma and things like that. And if we look at what he's been trying to do in Absolute Flash, maybe it's taken a little while to get there, but it definitely felt like after the last issue that he's starting to gain some traction there, no pun intended. But with Firestorm, it's almost like he hit the ground running, and that trauma is sort of built in. Because I got to admit, for being such a big Firestorm fan, I was taken aback with the first issue when he's like killing people, turning them to chalk or whatever. I was like, no, don't do my Firestorm like that. Don't do Ronnie like that. He's a hero. He's a good guy. For all his averageness, to build on what you were saying, his heart has always been in the right place. Even if whenever he made a mistake due to maybe some ignorance, lack of intelligence, not Professor Stein there to guide him, hey, transmute this to that and whatever. But plenty of mistakes were made through youthful exuberance or just lack of knowledge or whatever. But he was always trying his best. He always had the heart of gold. He always was trying to do the right thing, not just to be accepted. And there was a little bit of craving of wanting, to have a little bit of hero worship. But he was always a really good guy. His heart was always in the right place. So I enjoy that dichotomy with darkness here with the trauma that Ronnie's dealing with, and what the Professor Stein portion of it that starts to build next issue. So yeah, this was a no-brainer for my top three.
I want to give a shout out. It's not too often. Riley Rosmo is capable of doing some pretty damn good covers. I know he's a very stylistic artist, but he's got my vote in the middle of the screen for those watching. Riley Rosmo's art. Riley Rosmo's cover is my favorite of Firestorm of all the variant covers, and behind Jace is Sanford Green's variant cover, and.
Yeah, there's a Mark Spears one as well.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm not on that Mark Spears bandwagon.
Neither am I. That's why I never put him on. So yeah. I get to choose the variant covers. So
yeah, this stuff's totally okay.
No disrespect to Mark Spears. I just it happens.
Yeah. All right. Up next we have Green Lantern Corps issue number 16, Lux Eterna, from writer Morgan Hampton, art by Juan Jose Rip and Will Conrad, colors by Matt Herms, letters by Dave Sharp. I don't know how much more I can sing the praises of this book. Pretty sure this was in my top 3. Let me just double check. Yep, definitely my top 3. Morgan Hampton continues to juggle a lot of different storylines, a lot of different characters, and he's doing it really, really well. What happened last issue with the Manhunter setting a trap, luring Aya, along with some other lanterns, to their home planet, and then basically taking over Aya's body, and now rebuilding the lanterns in her image. So not the lanterns, but the Manhunters, Manhunter robots or androids, whatever you want to call them, in her image. They're much more powerful. They're much more modern. And they're out there trying to capture the emotional entities, the different emotional entities from the various spectrums, so they can harness their power to then go out and police the universe. And it's such an interesting concept that Morgan Hampton is building on, because he's taking things that have come before and he's extending those and building upon them. So this whole idea that the Manhunters, the reason that they were removed or replaced by the Green Lanterns is because the Guardians realized they made them without emotion. And it's an old trope with science fiction, right? Like artificial intelligence or true machine sentience would not allow humans to exist or have any sort of free will if they did allow them to exist, because humans have a tendency to make decisions and do things that are harmful to other humans. So the only way to really protect humankind, even if that was your overriding programming as a machine, would be to lock all the humans up, perhaps to prevent them from hurting themselves. Well, Hampton's taken that one step further, because again, the Manhunters were removed because they didn't have emotion. They weren't able to make decisions that were a little more nuanced because they didn't have emotion. So Morgan's taken that idea and saying the Manhunters are going to capture the emotional spectrum entities to use their power to police the universe and to replace the Green Lantern Corps, but they will allow emotion, but as a reward. They will allow select humans to have emotion. So it's almost like, hey, behave, follow our rules, whatever that might be, and we'll let you experience a little bit of emotion. Otherwise, you don't get to have any emotion, because we control all the entities of the emotional spectrum, and we won't allow them to basically have emotion in the universe. So again, building on things we saw even within this recent run of Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps, right? We saw that, I think it was in Green Lantern, where the previous regime of the United Planets, basically everything was gray. Nobody felt anything because all the emotional entities were trapped. Yeah. Right. So that's sort of what the Manhunters want to do. And if Jeremy said, not Jeremy, but Morgan, maybe he'll throw that in at some point, where the Manhunters got that idea because they saw that they just seen it done recently. So it's kind of a MacGuffin hunt a little bit, in a way, where you have the Green Lantern Corps and the Manhunters trying to get to the emotional entities. It's a race to gain control. So far, we know that the Manhunters have 2. They have Predator, and I can't remember the other one that they have.
What? I'm sorry.
Whatever the red. It's the red one. He looks like a earth animal. Looks like a bull. Butcher. The Butcher.
Butcher.
Okay. They have the Predator, which is the violet one, and they have the Butcher, which is the red entity, and then the Green Lantern Corps has Parallax, who we saw them get last time,
Right.
um, and whoever the violet one is,
I
not the
I
violet,
thought
the indigo,
Indigo.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was a
yeah.
Predator, but anyways, I
Yeah,
can't remember all
yeah,
the.
yeah. Predator is the violet one.
Right.
And then they're after they're both racing toward Ophidian, which is the orange one, which Larfleeze takes offense. Why does Ophidian want to?
Or effigy.
Why
It's
doesn't he want
effigy, isn't it? It's effigy
Effigy's,
wants Ophidian to
no,
replace Larfleeze.
Ophidian is the entity. Effigy is the villain that has pyrokinesis. So Ophidian is the emotional entity that's the orange, and he wants to bond with Effigy, who's the humanoid. Used to be a person, Martin Van Wyck,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So and Larfleeze is mad that Ophidian wants to merge with Effigy and not him. Like, why not me or whatever. And it is interesting the reasoning that Ophidian gets. He's like, well, I want somebody who's going to share, and he, the whole idea of sharing selfishness or avarice. And Effigy even says, he goes, I don't know about the whole idea of sharing avarice, but
Yeah.
in any event, it's really well done. It's brilliant. The art is strong. I love the idea of taking advantage of the fact that it's not just the Green Lantern Corps that we have in the cosmic corner of the DC universe when we're talking about Green Lantern books and Green Lantern stories. Jeff Johns helped craft this along with other creators. This whole idea of an emotional spectrum, and the fact that Jeremy Adams and Morgan Hampton are leaning into the richness of it, the epic scale and scope of what the Green Lantern corner of the DC universe has. It's fantastic. Building on Guy Gardner's characterization, I won't get into that aspect of it, but that provided some humor and some stakes as well, and some consequences at the very end. But yeah, I continue to love this book. It's fantastic. I think this is the most it's a tough call to make because I feel like Poison Ivy is another fantastic book, and Green Lantern and Aquaman, they're all really, really great. But I feel like Jubilo Wilson's run on Poison Ivy has been getting more and more critical acclaim. Like, people are taking notice, but I still don't hear people talking about Green Lantern Corps, Aquaman, and especially Green Lantern Corps. And I get it, because Morgan is not as well known. He's a newer writer. This is his first ongoing. But man, he deserves all the credit in the world for making this just a fantastic read. Yeah. It is so good. It is like the characterization for Aya, for Razor,
Wow.
For Fatality here. Sornek Natu is back. Like, oh man, I love it. It's fantastic seeing all these characters. And he does a great job. I can't believe there's only 22 pages. Like, so much happens in this issue. It's fantastic. So
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on it?
Morgan Hampton's done a great job. I just want to point out something what I find kind of comical and in a real great way is that, of course, no man escapes the Manhunters. I like the fact that now Manhunters look female. I like that because I know this isn't part of the storyline, but from a symbolic perspective in my head canon, I like the fact that we got sexy robots. And they're manhunters. They're sort of like the robotic equivalent of angry feminazis, angry Amazons going to beat up men across the galaxy. But that's what they look like. They look better. This new design for the manhunters, literally looking like Aya. I think they look much better. And I think it's just inspired. I think I really enjoy that, and I really like the fact that. I really like the whole thing with Larfleeze. While Larfleeze, he's not a particularly good host because you want more people. You want to spread avarice, but how can you spread avarice if Larfleeze refuses to share because it's mine? So I like the fact that Morgan Hampton sort of like identifies that as it's kind of a major problem. How do you spread selfishness if you want to keep it all for yourself? So in any event, you went through the issue. I don't need to repeat all of it, but it's really good. And the artists, Juan Jose Rip and Will Conrad, do a great job. And yeah, this was easy. This came in at number 4 for me. It was easily in my top 5. Another great job by Morgan Hampton.
Yeah, there's a cover too, a variant cover I wanted to shout out. Yeah, that one right there, which highlights Larfleeze, and it just says greed, and it's fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely had to pick
But
that. That's Jorge Forn. Yeah, Jorge Fornes on that
Yeah,
cover.
I will give a shout out. I actually love cover A as well. Cover A looks awesome. It
Yeah.
shows the Manhunter version of Aya coming out of her. It's so, when I talk about, I mean, how many times have I bitched about covers should reflect in some way the content of the comic, even if it's just metaphorical. This is not only metaphorical, but it's symbolic as well. The struggle that Aya has psychologically to control her essence being pirated by the Manhunters to spread their, to change their power base and what have you. Anyways, just fantastic cover and perfectly symbolic of the entire storyline. Very well done.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, we should give a shout out to whoever did that main cover. Fernando Passerin.
Yeah, great job.
Pencils, and Auclair Albert on the inks, Eric Prianto on the covers. So,
yeah.
All right, up next we have Absolute Martian Manhunter 11, penultimate issue, written by Dennis Camp, art by Javier Rodriguez, letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. Obviously, Javier doing his own color work as he has throughout, because color plays a huge role in this book. It definitely feels like we're getting toward the end, and it does say to be concluded. We know that this creative team, nobody else wanted to touch Absolute Martian Manhunter, and this creative team could have chosen to continue and give us more Absolute Martian Manhunter, but instead they're moving on to something else, and they said it was a really tough decision, and I'm sure it was, because this book is so unique and so interesting. Now it does feel like we get a lot of forward momentum in this particular issue, moving toward the conclusion next issue. And I sort of feel like the whole thing I kept thinking as I was reading this particular issue was how much better this is going to read in a trade. Because when we got to the back half, when we got to the back 6 issues, because again, it was originally only supposed to be 6 issues, it got extended to 12. And I feel like the last 6 issues are a little more codependent on each other than the first 6 issues. So each particular issue feels a little more dependent on the others and a little bit esoteric, but it did feel like we got a lot of forward momentum here. But there's still a lot of stuff where I'm like, man, I sort of feel like I need to read all 12 issues as a collected edition to make everything make more sense. And maybe it's just because I read so many books that I just don't necessarily have the time to sit there and read this multiple times and really dive into it to figure out what's going on. But there is a lot of story here. And one of the things I can point to as evidence of that is the fact that they didn't even want to give up like a page to do credits, to do like a splash page. Like the credits are on the last page, like at the very bottom, kind of smashed down into the panel because they needed, every last inch to tell the story that they're wanting to tell. So I did appreciate this. It did move the story forward. John Jones does realize that his son is, and it seems his wife as well, his estranged wife, they both realize that the White Martian has infected their son. It seems like the Martian Manhunter and the Despero entities are still sort of battling for control of John Jones. So it's all going to come to a head next issue. We'll see how well it sticks to landing. But I get why people might be a little confused by what's going on. It's a dense comic, and it's big concepts that are at times a little confusing. So all that being said, it came in at number 8 for me. This I feel like this whole entire series, based on the way the last 6 issues have been paced, Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez have put a lot of pressure on sticking the landing. Because I feel like, for me personally, the final issue is going to dictate whether or not I consider this to be a successful run, a successful series, or if I end up saying it's just more confusing than it is cohesive, I guess I'll say. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think, Rocky?
Well, I think the jury's already made it. I think the readership has already decided that this is a divisive title. I mean, there are people that 100% swear by this. They love it. And there's others that just saying it's not for me, and I'm out of there. I'm sort of right, sort of a little into the middle, but near the end here, I'm definitely leaning more toward it's just not for me. I actually, most of the time, I would agree with when you made the comment, well, maybe this will read better as a trade, or you're convinced it will. I'm actually wondering if it, I don't think I could get through this reading it as a trade. It's just every page just, now, I would love to, but I think that in my view, this is such a beautiful illustrated comic book. It's a rainbow of colors, but as I said before, a rainbow of colors does not a story make. On the surface, this is not a complicated story. It's just about a guy who's got an alien mind combating with a protagonist alien mind and an antagonist alien mind battling for supremacy in his head. And one of them has control of his son, and he's navigating a deteriorating marriage, a relationship. And at the end, he's going to defeat Despero, the bad guy. I mean, I get the gist of it. I do. What I don't get and what I struggle with, and in not a good way, is exactly what's happening from page to page. I get that what we're seeing may not be what's really happening, but I never get a sense that I really know what's happening. Even the final page, which I think when John Jones collapses, I think that finally is him. Is that actually, every time we see a background, we see a different color background. I don't understand. I don't get it. And so I'm in the camp that I don't really see it. I can appreciate the story, but let's put it this way. One of the things that's advertised, we're going to be getting an absolute one-shot with absolute Martian Manhunter, and I think absolute Batman and Wonder Woman are going to star in it. Superman, we're going to get a one-shot at some point. They're advertising. And that will be the test for me, because I got to tell you, if I would love to see how you're going to tell a tale. Like, I think of the absolute Batman and absolute Wonder Woman crossover, which I loved. They were, each individual title is its own story. But the crossover, which they beautifully called a duet, it was great. I would love to see how they're going to tell a story with absolute Batman and absolute Wonder Woman, or an absolute Martian Manhunter. If every page is going to be a rainbow of colors, what is that going to look like? That might be fantastic. It might be fantastic. But if it has this level of clarity, I'm not really getting this. I'm not really getting this. And Dennis Camp, to his credit, he's not spelling it out for people. And in fairness, you might understand some pages more than myself, but I'm not quite getting this. I'm not quite getting it. And but I can see why people love it like you. I can appreciate it because people just love a challenge. To me, it's like reading a good Grant Morrison. You're either in for the challenge or you're not. There's no in between. I mean, I love Grant Morrison did a Green Lantern tale of Hal Jordan, which I loved, but it was pretty out there in terms of the multiverse of things, and I loved it. Some people just absolutely hated it. So I get it. Sometimes this is an acquired taste, but in many ways, this is like reading a Jackson Pollock comic. Every page is like just a barrage of beautiful colors, and like you can see different things. You can see what you want, so the reader can bring what they want to it. I'm not quite there, but maybe, as you said, if I rose to the challenge and read the whole thing from beginning to end, if I had the patience, maybe it would all come together better. But I really enjoyed how the first arc ended. But this second arc, it just seems I was really hoping it was going to come together. And rather, it just, because some of the pages are so gorgeous. I mean, just gorgeous. I mean, there's a page here where Rodriguez, he's got a face of John Jones, and it's a wonderful collage of what's going on in John Jones' head, and you can tell he's struggling with something. So I get it. But it's just the story itself isn't quite gelling for me. But so it's been a while since I've been this challenged by a story. But it hasn't quite nailed it for me, and I'm not sure the ending's gonna land because if the journey has been this convoluted for my own personal experience, I might miss the point of the ending. I'm afraid I might miss something in terms of how the ending lands, but we'll have to wait and see.
Would you want a director's cut?
I would love a director's cut. I would.
One page and then explanation.
I
Next
would.
page, explanation.
I would like to know what Dennis Camp was trying to accomplish with some of these pages, because I'm, like I say, just like you've educated me on some comics, right? Where I didn't see it, right? You had to spell it out for me. Oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Because sometimes all I need is a little bit of a push. Oh, okay, that's what they did here. Oh, okay. You know, like I would buy that. If there was a director's cut of this for the first 6 issues, I'm in. I'm up to the challenge. So hopefully we'll do that, because how much of an audience is there? I think there's an audience for that. I really do, because at the absolute, this is sold well. You know, this has sold well. It's risen. It's sort of like a rising tide raises all ships. Absolute Martian Manhunter. I think it's sold. I think it's selling more than Absolute Green Lantern, if I recall. I stand to be corrected on that.
Yeah,
but yeah, so
it's selling more than Absolute Flash as well.
Well, there you go. So I think a lot of people really appreciate this in terms of what this brings, and that's one of the reasons why I hate feeling like the only guy who's not getting it, and that's how I kind of feel. Like, am I the only guy not getting it? And so I don't want to say it's a bad.
That's how I feel about Absolute Batman. That's how I feel about Absolute Batman. Now, Absolute Batman is nowhere near as esoteric as this. I think I understand Absolute Batman. I just don't. It's not resonating with me. But yeah, I would love a director's cut as well. Actually, what I would really love. And I know Dennis Camp is way too busy for this, but how great would it be to have him come on the show and just, hey, let's do the first issue. You know, spend an hour and go through the first issue page by page. Yeah. Now, some creators wouldn't want to do that. They'd be like, I want people to interpret it the way they interpret it, and bring their own experiences or whatever. Yeah. So I could see him not. I could because some creators would want to explain it, and some wouldn't. And I don't know where Dennis is on that. So. Anyway, we'll see how it all pans out again when the final issue drops. But anyway, speaking of Absolute Batman, Absolute Batman 20, written by Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta on art, Frank Martin on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. If you haven't heard the news, every single issue of Absolute Batman 20, of which there were over 140 covers, I believe. Think about that. 140 different covers, variants. So many retailer exclusives. Even today, I saw somebody announcing a retailer exclusive for Absolute Batman 20 for the first time. So anyway, with all these variants, the way that DC has been doing it recently is they do whatever the regular print run of the regular cover A. Right, so let's say you add up all the 140 variant covers, and I shouldn't say 140 variants because it's probably 139 or something like that, and then the regular covers included. But anyway, you add up all of the issues of Absolute Batman 20 that need to be printed to fulfill all of the pre-orders, and they print that many of the book with the regular cover A, and then they take whatever number of variants and they put the cardstock variant over the top of the regular cover. So every variant is technically a cover A copy, and then they just add the cardstock variant on top. That's the way they've been doing it for a while. But every single issue of the regular print run is damaged. Every single issue. So nobody is going to have a pristine copy of Absolute Batman number 20.
But describe the damage, because it's minor. I think it's minor, but that's just my opinion.
There's some spine ticks and there's some wrinkles on the cover. And some people were like, well, DC changed the paper stock of their cover and made it thinner, whatever. They did that a while ago. Like, people are going to be mad at DC, whatever. I get it. They're a big corporation. I mean, really, it's Warner Brothers, and then talk about whoever's going to own Warner Brothers. But at the end of the day, this is on the printer. This is a 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, whatever. It's a huge print run. Absolute Batman is the best-selling book in comics, and it has the largest print run. You're telling me that after the first couple dozen, or even 100, or maybe even couple thousand, somebody at the print the printer is not going and doing a quality check and going, oh, hold on a second, there's something wrong here. The paper's loaded incorrectly, or maybe it's something's one of the rollers is misaligned. Something caused this, right? So you're telling me that you did an entire run, however many it is, multiple hundreds of thousands of books, and you didn't realize that there was damage on the book early on and correct it? So but also I'm kind of with you, Rocky. I'm not into grading. I'm not into everything's got a pristine or whatever. I read my comics. Do I want them in good shape? Yeah, obviously the better shape they're in, if I ever sell them, I get more for them, whatever. But I think it's kind of minor. But the people that I got to have a perfect copy, there is no perfect copy.
Well, just for what it's worth, when it comes, I know a little bit about CGC grading, and when you basically have a cardstock cover and then the main cover underneath. They grade the top cover. The highest grade, when you got a double cover or a cardstock cover up top, if the cardstock is 9.8 and the one below is an 8.5, you're going to get the 9.8. They grade the higher. So even from a CGC grade, even from a CGC grading perspective, I think that there's an argument to be made that the comic books are fine, especially if you bought a retailer variant or one of the variant covers other than cover A. But again,
but even with cover A, if every single cover A has the same damage and it's a printer defect, they will not. You can still get a 9.8. If every one of them is that, they will still give it a 9. And DC's already said, we already notified CGC. CGC's aware of it. So when you submit them, you're not going to get dinged. You're not going to have the grade lowered because of that printer defect. And the other thing, DC, and this announcement just came out today, as far as I know, Tuesday as we're recording this. The other thing that DC said is that DC's going to ship the second printing of this to retailers for free. So whatever number of copies of cover A that a retailer ordered, so if a retailer ordered 50 copies of cover A, DC's going to ship them a second printing of Absolute Batman 20. They'll ship them 50 copies, and they won't charge them. And then they're also giving, I think it was a 15 to 25%. I don't know how they determine what it is of a discount on the on what they paid for variant covers. So they're doing the best they can. Again, I hope DC's getting some concessions from the printer.
They got insurance. I'm sure they have insurance for this sort of thing.
Because this is in a lot of ways inexcusable, but at the same time, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But again, I'm not into the whole, oh my God, it has to be perfect, blah, 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 whatever. But of all the issues for it to happen on, the one where it has, 140 variant covers, and the fact that the way they do it with the cardstock on top of the regular cover, every one of them's going to be damaged.
I love it because I hate the retailer variants. They shouldn't exist. So it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Doesn't bother me. To me, it's karma. It's karma.
I won't say that they shouldn't exist, but you got to limit it to maybe. And if everybody wants one on Absolute Batman, and I get it, because then you have a list, and you do. I think 10 would be too many. I'd want to limit it to like 5 retailer variants, but maybe you have to, if you have 1,000 shops, it's going to take like 10 years for everybody to be able to get a variant or whatever. But I do feel like 140 covers, that's just ridiculous. So I don't know if it's karma or not, but I mean, again, take it for what you will, but.
I just want to add my final 2 cents worth that I think the way DC responded was excellent. I think they're taking the hit. They're giving out second printings. I think every comment they made about it, notifying CG, that's exactly what they should have done. That's what they do. I don't think they owe anybody an apology. They acknowledged it. They dealt with it. They're getting a second printing. And this is the best comic book in the business. They held themselves accountable. Scott Snyder was quick to say they're going to deal with it, and they did. So, to me, it's water off a duck's back. Move along, people.
Yeah, imagine if somebody finds a copy, and again, people will, they'll do some pressing. Obviously, the spine ticks that I saw from the pictures that I saw, they were color breaking spine ticks. You can't press that out, but there could be people that managed to press out the crease on it or whatever. Imagine if somebody does have one, oh my God, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a big debacle. it's still a continuing like that, and Read Comics Online going off, disappearing. It just had the whole comics social media in an uproar this weekend. So anyway, as far as the book itself, to no one's surprise, I almost, as I was talking about the other books, as I was going through, I almost wanted to drop this in my rankings, but I didn't. I'm going to keep it at number 6. And the reason I'm going to keep it at number 6 is because there is some tension here. There is some scope. Some of it I don't necessarily care for. Like, we're calling all the way back to Absolute Batman 1 in a way, with where we got the origin of Bruce, and the excuse me, the information, the file that he got from James Gordon last issue before Gordon was killed, which I still dislike that story point immensely. But regardless, it was this idea that the Joker. So not only is the Joker responsible for the creation of all the Batman rogues villains, but he's also responsible for the creation of Batman himself.
Allegedly.
Yes, allegedly.
Possible, yeah.
Like really. So I'm not completely, like, it is expanding the scope, and it just feels really tropey to me to have that as a possible explanation. And then we have the straw man, we have the Scarecrow show up here, and even he throws some doubt on it and makes it seem like, oh, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I mean, that's what a conspiracy theory is, right? Like, you don't know the truth. You don't know what's true, what's not, whatever. It just, again, it felt a little tropey, but it is expanding the scope of the story. We get the first hints of Bruce knowing that Martha, his mother, is part of the Court of Owls, how that's going to play out or whatever. I did not care for the Scarecrow's first appearance last issue. It felt superfluous. Here, it makes more sense. I almost feel like this should have been his first appearance, and those first couple pages with the farmers didn't belong in the last book. Maybe you have him as a shadowy figure talking to Gordon if you wanted it, whatever. But again, I'm playing script doctor. There are things that I liked about this issue, but there's things that I didn't as well. Like introducing the conspiracy theory. You already have a Bruce Wayne that, to me, hasn't had enough character development, enough evolution of character, and now you're introducing self-doubt on top of it. Yeah, I mean, I get that this is a Batman book that is it's in the horror genre. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we got a picture of the Joker here again, looking all horrific in his Joker cave or whatever. And I just think his character design is terrible, whatever. But, and maybe it's just a fact, maybe, I'm talking about, I can't understand why Absolute Batman's not resonating with me. Maybe it's because I'm not a fan of horror. Maybe that's all it comes down to. I don't know, but I thought this was okay. It's certainly not the worst issue of Absolute Batman. It's not the best either. It's somewhere in the middle. Touted as, hey, the Robin show up in this issue. They were almost an afterthought in a lot of ways. Guess we'll get more of them in issue 21. It was cool to see them in their various mechs or what have you, but it didn't feel like the main point of this issue, even though they're on the cover, even though they were teased last issue. So I don't know. I've talked about the pacing with this book feeling a little off to me. That continues to be the case. So I'm just struggling. I'm just struggling for this to resonate with me. And yeah, everybody else it's the best comic out there or whatever. I can't disagree. I can't disagree more. So anyway, I'm sure you loved it a lot more than I did, Rocky. So I did. This made my top 3. And I will say that what I particularly love is, I have my own theory, which I'm going to share. But I love the fact that this issue was essentially Batman. Commissioner Gordon has been killed by the straw man, by Scarecrow, and he right away. So it was hinted at last issue that maybe the Scarecrow had something to do with the death of his father, the formative event that made Bruce Wayne grow up to be Batman, and because there was crows in the background, which maybe if we read those early issues, we assumed they were bats, but they weren't. There's crows, and here we have Scarecrow talking to Batman because Batman goes to the jail to try to question Joe Chill because Joe Chill killed his father, but he's wondering,
is there more to the story? He wants Joe Chill to tell him the truth. What do you know about the death of my father, or what do you know about the death of Thomas Wayne? He doesn't tell him. He doesn't reveal himself. But and then for Scarecrow to show up, to know that Batman is there, and to literally kill Joe Chill, hang Joe Chill right in front of Batman. Batman failed to save, watched as Commissioner Gordon died. He failed to save Joe Chill. He still doesn't have the information that he wants about is he just a pawn in the Joker's game, in Mr. Grimm's long game? Was Batman planned? Was this a long game played out over 25 years to form this kid into Batman? Remember the story of the Joker and the origins of Arkham Asylum. Remember how many decades the Joker did to set up and ultimately kill. The Joker is accustomed. Jack Grimm is used to playing the long game with people. He'll put them on an island and torture them for months and years until he finally devours them. The origin, again, go back to the Arkham story. The way that he torments Bane, the way that he torments everybody. It's logical to believe at this point that Batman became Batman because of some long game, some sick game. Scarecrow calls it a joke. Scarecrow says, this isn't even about your history. You're just a joke. You're just a joke to us. And you don't even know the worst. Wait till you find out more. The worst is yet to come. You're going to find out information that's even worse than what you know now. You were a joke. You're a pawn. I think Batman wasn't a pawn. I think that, and maybe I'm 100% wrong, but I think that Batman is Joker's wild card. I don't think the Joker expected Bruce Wayne to become Batman, but I think Joker's trying to save face, to trying to plant these seeds to try to save face, because Batman was the one wild card that Jack Grimm himself did not anticipate. And it's suggested at the beginning, it shows the Joker in front of a screen, and you see all the events of the previous issues and the death of Joker and the death of Commissioner Gordon. He's not Commissioner, but death of Jim Gordon. It's, again, so many strong hints. Scott Snyder wants us to believe that Batman's origins was all planned by the Joker, but I don't think, I think there's more to it. It was also suggested that the reason why the Joker manipulated Bruce Wayne from a young age by killing his father through the Scarecrow, and by doing all that was revenge on his mother, Martha Wayne, for being a member of the Court of Owls. So, and of course, Martha Wayne is missing. We think Martha Wayne, last time we saw Martha Wayne, it was implied that maybe she was killed because she went to try to get the Court of Owls to return to Gotham City to take on Jack Grimm again. But we know that at some point in the past, Court of Owls were kicked out of Gotham, or they fled Gotham because they couldn't defeat Jack Grimm. They couldn't defeat the Joker. So, there's so much here, and I love it. I think the story plays together so well. The 19th issue, last issue, and this issue, I think are probably two of my favorite issues from the beginning. I'm really enjoying where this is going, and I think Scott Snyder, and he's doing such a good job for me with the horror, incorporating a horror element while doing something different. While I think there's enough misdirection here, I think he's setting up some misdirection. Now, my one criticism of this is I'm really not a fan of the Robins. You said it earlier, and eventually I might end up being on your side. You said it earlier. While Scott Snyder, he's revealing too many characters all at once. He's sort of blowing his load too quickly, maybe, so to speak. But I'm not a fan of the Robins. They end up attacking Batman at the end of this issue, just when Batman is all depressed, and so we're going to see that battle next issue. I'm not a big fan of that myself, but we'll see how it works out. But still, I had a really good issue. I thought this was a great issue, and it was in my top 3.
I mean, do you remember? I was such a fan of first issue. I loved it. And the only thing I didn't like was the last page, if you recall. And it was because the last page was the Joker, was Jack Grimm being revealed. And I questioned why he needed to be brought on stage so early. Well, maybe because, we want to talk about pacing. Scott's got a new character in every issue, and, you got to put him in somewhere. And like, if anybody is going, like, Scott is such a fan of the Joker. Like, he is a gigantic Joker fan, and he sees the Joker as basically the sort of the twisted mirror image of Batman. And that's been the case throughout his work on Batman, whether it be the New 52 run, or I mean, that's the whole basis of the Batman Who Laughs, right? It's Bruce Wayne. And you talk about all the different versions of the Dark Knights, metal versions, Bruce Wayne mixed with Darkseid or Flash or Green Lantern or whomever, right? And so if anybody's going to, if any creator is going to make it where the Joker's responsible for the origin of Batman, it's going to be Scott Snyder, and it's going to be here in Absolute Batman. So I hear what you're saying, and I hope that you're right, and the Joker's not responsible for, because at some point it just becomes ridiculous, right? The Joker's just responsible for everything. I mean, this is the Absolute universe where everything is infused with Omega energy from Darkseid, right? Or is this the Joker universe where the Joker's really the god of the universe? Because it really does seem like the Joker is the god of Absolute Batman. Yeah. Because he just controls everything. And I find that to be boring and reductive, that all the villains are basically because of Jack Grim. Like,
but on the other hand, one of the interesting aspects is that there are hints that Batman's friends, Bruce Wayne's friends, who he thinks have abandoned him because of what happened to them with Bane, they might end up coming to his rescue. They might end up, just when we've given up on his friends coming to his rescue. I think that's being set up as well. So you can see the pieces of Scott Snyder sort of, pushing Batman down, like knocking him down before he builds him back up again. So.
Yeah, which again, that's fine. That's nothing new. It's a pretty common storytelling device. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, I think a lot of this, and maybe again why Absolute Batman's not resonating with me, because the Joker is this giant shadow that looms over everything in Absolute Batman, and my personal dislike of the Joker. I mean, again, it doesn't mean this comic is bad. It doesn't mean that it's not great storytelling. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that, to your point last time when I was talking about Absolute Batman, and I was really frustrated, Rocky, with why it wasn't resonating for me. And you said, well, not every comic is for every person. It just sucks that it's the biggest comic that so many people love, and it doesn't work for me, and it very well might not work because it is so Joker heavy, and I just dislike that, and that's just a personal thing. I just dislike the Joker as a character, always have. So anyway, hopefully you guys all get the best condition you can of your Absolute Batman 20 this week. Wishing everybody lots of luck, whichever cover you order. I don't even remember what cover I ordered. I mean, I am still buying it every week, but I mean, I actually pre-ordered it from DCBS. I don't pick up a copy at my local shop. So anyway, let's move on. That's the end of the books that we're going to talk about in any amount of detail. There are a few reprints this week, a couple of facsimile editions. We've got Justice League 75 getting a reprint, and as DC has done recently, a regular reprint, a foil reprint, blank cover reprint. And also, in addition, we've also got an Action Comics number 583. That's the, I think it's the second part, the final part being in Superman. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, the final issue of Action Comics, pre-crisis rather, written by Alan Moore. That's, again, same deal. You got a regular cover, you got a foil cover, you got a blank cover. So those are out this week. And then in terms of trades that we have, we've got Immortal Legend Batman getting a hardcover. This was the Elseworlds 6-issue tale, which was written by Kyle Higgins and Matt Groom, with art by Erica Durso and Dan Mora. We've got DC's Finest Wonder Woman, a Dawn Before Darkness trade paperback. This is in that DC's Finest format, where DC's collecting stories for these various characters that really epitomize who the characters are. So this is collecting Wonder Woman Volume 3, 36 through 44, and issue 600. Secret 6, 10 through 14, Blackest Night, Wonder Woman 1 through 3, and a story from the DC Halloween special from 2009. It's 456 pages for $40. We also have Justice League Red getting a trade paperback treatment, getting all 6 issues collected in one volume. We kind of had mixed feelings about this. Saladin Ahmed was the writer, and the story was okay. Tied in a little bit to what was going on with DCKO, but not a ton.
Some great art by Clayton Crane of Power Girl. Her chest was fantastic.
Yeah, that's really where what we really loved about it. Like the art by Clayton Crane throughout was, or Clayton Henry rather, throughout was fantastic. Like I think I said at the time, the more and more I see Clayton Henry's art, the more and more I love it. So I'm glad it exists, if only for the Clayton Henry art, because the art is fantastic. And then there's also a JLA, a League of One Deluxe Edition hardcover that collects the League of One and JLA Classified Cold Steel 1 and 2. It's 280 pages for $25. And then finally, Batman in the 70s trade paperback, 192 pages, $20, collecting a ton of stories. It doesn't give the breakdown. But stuff from Denny O'Neil and Archie Goodwin, Elliot S. Maggin, Paul Levitz, just a ton of fantastic Batman stories. Dick Giordano, Alex Toth. I mean, some real legendary Batman artists, and it's got a cover by Neil Adams. So that's out this week as well. All right, time for rankings. Go ahead, Rocky, fire away.
So my coming in at number 9, Barbara Gordon, Breakout. I don't, next level it is not, in my opinion. Coming in at number 8, Absolute Martian Manhunter. My apologies. I'm not seeing it. Perhaps I need to be possessed by the Martian Mind Hunter or whatever he's called. Number 7, Fury of Firestorm. Number 2. Great jumping on point for new readers if you want to get to know Firestorm. Number 6, coming in at number 6, Bleeding Hearts. Number 4, coming in at number 5, Emperor Aquaman, issue 17. Number 4, Green Lantern Corps, 16. Number 3, Action Comics 1098. Coming in at number 2, Absolute Batman 20. But number 1, Sophie Campbell is doing a fantastic job. I absolutely loved it. It was I enjoyed it the most, and I'm not only enjoying the cover, I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the cover A's, and I even got some variant covers as well. But Supergirl number 13, Sophie Campbell, just did a fantastic job. So and I'll be honest, it was an easy number 1 for me this week, if you can believe that. I guess it's resonating with me.
Yeah. Really surprised. Okay. Supergirl number 13 comes in at number 9 for me. Again, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every comic this week, but something got to be last. Number 8, Absolute Martian Manhunter number 11. Coming in at number 7, I've got Action Comics number 1098. At number 6, Absolute Batman number 20. Then my top 5, I've got Bleeding Hearts number 4 at 5. Barbara Gordon Breakout number 1 comes in at 4. Then my top 3, I've got Fury of Firestorm number 2. You said a great jumping on point for people to learn about Firestorm. I'll go one further. A great jumping on point to learn about Ronnie Raymond more than anything, because the jury's still out on who this Firestorm may be. And then number 2 for me, Green Lantern Corps number 16. I think that's the second issue in a row where it comes in at number 2. So, I mean, it was, I think, my number 1 3 or 4 weeks in a row, or 3 or 4 issues in a row. And number 2, so man, like average-wise, Green Lantern Corps apparently is my favorite DC title right now. Emperor, that leaves Emperor Aquaman number 17 at number 1. And it was a tough call for me in terms of just based on story between like a lot of my top 5. But what put Emperor Aquaman over the top, you can probably guess in one word. Jarro.
Yeah.
Jarro, baby. Jarro pushed it over the top. Seemed like I just had such a huge smile on my face. As soon as I turned the page and I saw it, I was like, is that Jarro? Because I wasn't 100% sure at first, because we know Starro the Conqueror was part of the DCKO tournament. And we know that a lot of the villains that were in the DCKO tournament are getting amnesty in the pages of Justice League Unlimited. So he was kind of small, so I thought Jarro, but at the same time I was like, is it Jarro or could it be Starro working with Aquaman because of the amnesty, whatever? And it became clear it was Jarro, and I was like, yes, I definitely pushed it over the top for me. So anyway, those are our rankings. Appreciate everybody joining. As always, don't forget to head over to YouTube if you're listening to the audio only version of this. We appreciate it. But if you head over to YouTube, comes on our Rocky's channel every week, Comic Space Boom, ! Once you're there, you know what to do. Ring the notification bell, like, comment, subscribe. You can see the art, you can see the covers, you can see our smiling faces every week. And as long as you're there on YouTube, head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel as well. It's where Spawn Daily comes out, independent reviews come out, Marvel reviews come out, interviews, all that kind of stuff. So again, like, comment, subscribe. We really appreciate the support. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, like I mentioned, there is an audio only version. It comes out on the Comic Source podcast feed every week, along with a lot of the other content. It's on your favorite podcasting app or platform. Just do a search and subscribe, and you have thousands and thousands of past episodes to go and check out as well. So hope everybody has a great week. We appreciate you joining as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.